Someone once said to me that when I come out and visit castles, I'm visiting molehills. Well, today, this is the molehill I'm visiting. That is Castle Acre Priory. Sorry, Castle Acre Castle. Some jet going over the top of me. Could be from Marham, that's not far away. It's been described. I'll wait for him to go over. In fact, that sounds like two of them going over. It has been described as one of the greatest ruins in England. It was started shortly after the invasion, about 1070. I think it was the Earl of Arundel that first had it, and then it was taken over by a man called William.The, and if I'm pronouncing this right, Werney, who came over to England in 1066 with Duke William, who became William.The, and he was given this land. It was already owned by an Anglo-Saxon lord. There was a house which was right in the middle of it, and rather unusually for a Motte and Bailey castle, it wasn't built like the standard Motte and Bailey where they built a motte and then built a tower on top. What they did was they built the motte around the existing building, and then they heightened the existing building, and then later on they heightened it again, although it was subsequently partly demolished again over the course of many years. What they also did was the ancient Roman road or trackway used to come not far from here, called the Peddar's Way, but they actually diverted it to come down to the left of the castle. And what they did then was they built a town, a small planned town, which is between the castle and the church there now. Bit unusual that you'd build a castle sort of almost in the middle of nowhere and then build a town, an existing town. I mean, that's the sort of thing that they did in Wales, but that was more of a sort of a settlement thing, with the idea of protection and everything else. But the town is just to the left, and the town does have some very impressive earthwork defences. It does have a Bailey gate still. There was an entranceway from the castle into the town. I believe what they used to call that was a burgess. Well, I might be wrong. But you could get from the castle into the town, so you wouldn't enter the castle through the outer gate, which was to the right, where the just waiting for lorries to go past. I'm right by the busy main road. The Barbican is to the right. That's where the main gate is. But if you came to the castle, if you were invited into the castle, you'd come in through the town and then go from the town in through a series of possibly rooms and the gateway, and then into the castle. There is also a priory which has a very impressive gateway on it. I'm not sure if you can see it from here, if I can zoom in enough. Yeah, there's the gateway for the priory. You can see the priory just next to it. It is a fantastic ruins. I have been to both before. That is outside the town area, but that was gifted by the lords who owned, I think he became the Earl of Surrey, William did. Doesn't look as if there's anybody there today. It's supposed to be a bright sunny day, and when I turn up here it's not. It's very windy. I have got my microphone on, so hopefully I'm not going to get too much wind noise. But there's also the river, I think it's the River Yar, which is running down at the front, and I think they slightly diverted that as well. But I'm going to pop down there in a minute, have a little drive out down there, and then do a little bit more filming. And there is a little cake shop in the village as well, so we might have a little cake and a coffee. Just in Castle Acre still, just by the church, just on the very, very extent of where the castle wall is. And as you can see, there is Castle Acre Priory. It does extend for quite a distance. There's the gateway. Very impressive gateway. It wouldn't have been that defendable, not by monks, especially as most of the other area is open. Not going to be visiting that today. I have visited it before. I was going to have a look at the part of the ditch, the outer wall, which is very impressive. You can't see all of the bank, but that is a substantial bank just there. Look, it runs down to the bottom there and along. You can't really see it all because it's in people's gardens, but you can see that part there. It is much lower down there than it is up here. Just walk up here, there's a public footpath just here. There's another view of it there. And you can see it going off in that direction. Little rabbit running along there. That is very substantial earthwork of the outer town wall. There's not a lot else of it you can get to or see it. I've found another view on another footpath of the bank and ditch. As you can see, it goes all the way down there. That's a substantial ditch. And that's a very, very high bank there. It's got some nettles on it. That wouldn't stop me walking along it, but I don't think you can. I think this is the very end of where you can see it now. It doesn't extend behind me, but as you can see, that is substantial earthworks for a town wall. If you were coming from the north of Castle Acre and you wanted to come into the town, as it is now, probably a village then, you would come through this gateway here. This is the northern gateway. As you can see, it's constructed from flint, probably the most common building material around here in Norfolk. Certainly is a substantial structure. That car's coming down there. The building next door to it is not sure if that would have been original, if they've just reused the stone or not. That is a substantial structure, and it would have had a substantial wall. Obviously that portcullis there is not original, but it would have had a portcullis. If you were going into the castle, you would have come down the way I'm going now. I'm heading down to the castle from the town, from the Bailey Gate. I was headed south, now this would be east. And you would come down here. And you would get to a gateway here. And you would see that massive motte on the left hand side, which would have been completely covered in stone. As you can see by this illustration, there wasn't a town by the look of it at that point. More rabbits. The shape of the bailey here is a bit slightly, not unusual, but it's not normally the They're normally kidney shaped or like a horseshoe shape. You'd come in through the gatehouse here. I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like it's a room or anything. I should imagine that's probably for a bar on the gate. Those two holes there. Possibly down there. That would certainly be impressive looking up there. I mean, they have built a bridge to get across, but it wouldn't have had a bridge. You would have probably had it halfway across and then a drawbridge. There was a church in the centre here, or a chapel I should say, belonged to the Clunic order of monks. That's who the Castle Acre priory up the road there belongs to, up until the dissolution of the monasteries. Good old Henry VIII. This was all covered in earth at one point, but it was dug out and revealed. Not quite sure if it was the 50s or 60s that they did that. Despite the fact that the road is up there, it's quite quiet. I was just up on the where those cars are going past, on that main road a little bit earlier, taking the video from up there. It is a bit more overgrown since I was last here. Oh, and there's a visitor. It's better tended than a lot of castles, but it does look like it's been left to grow a little bit. As you can see, I mean, we're in Norfolk. Most of the land around here, the fenlands, would have been waterlogged. I mean, the River Yar is just there, so it runs along the castle. But a lot of people, I keep saying this, but a lot of people tend to think that castles are built on hills. I mean, but up on that hill there, that would have been more defendable, but then you've got no water or a water source, then you're digging wells. I mean, it does have a well there, but you're having to dig wells to try and find water. There might not be water. So having a river nearby, and also using a river for defence as well, because having water defences for a Motte and Bailey castle is quite important. You can see how high up the motte is. That would have been extended because of the walkway for the wall is up there. Sadly, you can't walk on it. And that is part of the original house, I believe, that was already here when they piled the earth up against it. It may have been lower than that, I'm not sure. When they piled the earth up against it and then built the motte around it. In 1066, Motte and Bailey castles were a pretty unknown thing. They weren't unknown. There's at least 4, possibly 5 examples of Motte and Bailey castles in England before then. Normans that came over to England with Edward the Confessor. Ah, we've got a group of kids. Always have to be aware of kids when you're filming, especially for the YouTube and putting it on Facebook. Lovely flowers there, foxgloves I believe they're called. But you can see that's a substantial bank to get down and then to get up again. And as I've said on other videos, I mean, if you're a Norman soldier back in them days wearing leather shoes without heels on them, wearing mail armour, a shield, a spear, possibly a sword, an axe, it would have been much harder for you to get up there than it is for me. Oh, I've got a family outing. I think I can hear an American accent. I want to film the Barbican, but I don't want to get that little group involved. And that's the Barbican. For those people who don't know, that's basically the weakest part of a castle is normally a gateway. So therefore it would be the strongest part of the castle, because it would be strengthened. And the way they would strengthen it would be to build a Barbican. And that's basically an outer wall with more ditches, more banks, making it much harder for someone to get in. Not that it would be that easy anyway. Thought we'd be on our own today, and there was suddenly 100 people. Oh, you've got the inevitable rabbits. They're a bane of these places, rabbits are, destroying them. And you've got the well, that must go down a substantial way. That would have to go all the way down as far as, at least as low as the moat is. I'm just going to turn the camera off for a little bit while I go past these kids and that. You can see where they've got faced stone. Faced stone is basically where you'd use certain types of stone that you'd work on with a mason, sorry, but they wouldn't bother using the rest of the stone. Behind it they'd use flint and so on, but it's very expensive to work stone, so you'd only have like the front layer which would be worked. The back behind it would be an infill of less sort of important looking stone. I'll continue filming. As you can see, the ditch around the moat there. The moat itself was protected by its own wall there, so that people couldn't come in, just walk down into the moat and then come on round. It would also mean you wouldn't need an inner wall to protect the moat area. I'll film that in a minute when I go out. I'll go out that way. I'll probably walk down into the bottom there, just see how deep it is. When this was originally built, it wasn't really built as a castle. It was probably built, there was already a house here, that house was extended, and then later on it was turned into a castle. Castles have a tendency to be built to control areas. There's not a massive amount around here, although there is a road, the road up there, that the Peddar's Way. I mean, the Peddar's Way goes all the way from up in the north of England, sorry, up in the north of East Anglia, on the south, the north coast. Keep mixing my words up now. On the north coast, it goes all the way down to past Royston in Hertfordshire, and then it goes on down to, it joins up with the Icknield Way, which is another ancient trackway, which goes all the way down and joins up with the Ridgeway, which goes all the way down to the south coast. So you've got an almost continuous trackway all the way down. So you can see chalk there. So it was built up with chalk. But just over in that direction, you've got another Motte and Bailey, very similar to this, in very similar design, at Mileham. And in fact, at Mileham there are two Motte and Baileys, or a Motte and Bailey and another Motte, and a fortified manor, or a couple of fortified manors. So it's a very fortified place there. You've also got South Elham Bishop's Castle, and then that kind of heads over towards kind of in the direction of Norwich. So people coming from King's Lynn, which would have been over in Swatham's over that way and King's Lynn's over that way, so you would have had people coming this way or travelling this way. You've got Castle Rising at King's Lynn. King's Lynn itself was a fortified town. Just outside King's Lynn on the south, I think it's southeast of King's Lynn, you've got Middleton Castle, an oddly named place called Wormegee Castle, which is not far away. So you do have all these different castles and baronial sites, as they might be called. They're all interconnecting with each other. If one place was attacked, then you better look out, because what will happen is the Normans from one castle will come storming down, and they'll give you a right good spanking if you were a Saxon in the day. I don't think I've ever walked around the outside from down there. I might do in a minute. But if you imagine that in the Saxon period, most people probably don't stray very far from where they live, or the village they live in. You pretty much stay local. But if you're not happy with the local Norman lords, and you decide to do something about it, and you go and try and attack their castle, they wouldn't defend this outer bit, the Bailey, because it's not that defendable. There wouldn't be enough troops in here against a siege, so you would go and sit in the Motte, and that's much more defendable, much easier to defend that with a few troops. And you just sit up there and you'd wait probably a day, 2 days, for the nearest garrison, which would be another castle or whatever, to come storming down here. And if you were unfortunate still to be in the local area, you'd get stomped, basically. Nice poppies there. And they wouldn't really care who you were or what you were. If you were in the local area and you've been up to no good, or whether you have been or not, you'd get told off, let's put it that way. And when I say told off, I probably mean executed, but think it's the River Nar, not the River Yar. I might have a little walk down there. As you can see, that is quite daunting, a prospect of trying to attack that. Even if you were a trained professional soldier, you would still not necessarily want to climb up there and try and attack that. When they're shooting arrows down at you and crossbow bolts and throwing rocks and other things. Very nice flowers. Don't know whether it's laziness, not wanting to do something about it, or just whether or not they would try and say, oh, it's just letting it go back to nature a little bit. But there's enough of these historical sites that have gone back to nature and you can't see them anymore. I mean, this place is free to visit, so they don't charge you, but they charge you to get into the priory. As you can see, if you did get down into the ditch and wanted to get into that side, you've got a huge great wall which would have gone up and up and up and up and up, and there's no way you'd have got past that. I mean, this place is well worth a visit, but so is Castle Rising. The earthworks at Castle Rising are substantial as well as this place. There is another priory not far from here, at Acre. But that's very ruinous. It's spread out, a lot of it's on private land. You can nip down there and see bits of it from the road. Most visitors probably wouldn't come in through the Barbican. The Lord probably would. As you can see, it does look quite well defended. I think this picture shows the town as well. If they wanted to impress you, you probably would go through the town and come in from the other gate. Choices up there or down there. I think we'll go down here. Last time I came here I did make a little video, but it was so windy you could hardly hear anything. Certainly didn't have a not a microphone. Oh yeah, it is a microphone, isn't it? A hairy microphone. Looks like a caterpillar. I mean, I'm making light work of coming down here in modern boots, but like I said, you try to come down here in the any sort of medieval period, you've got grass there, mud, anything that's got no tread on it and just flat leather, you've got pretty much no chance of getting up that. It's not one of the tallest motts I've ever seen, but it certainly is one of the biggest. And one of the most impressive. With the outer barbican there. Oh, now it's a very hot day. I'll just come back down here now. Turned the camera off because it was a little bit steep. Just going to walk around the bottom of the motte. If you did somehow find yourself down here, there'd be no point in coming down here, because if you managed to get up there, then you'd have to get up that wall. There's no windows in it. Well, there may have been windows added later when it was less defendable, but stinging nettles are my favourite thing in the world. And you're not likely to go up there and climb up there with a ladder. It'd be a struggle just to get up there in your armour. Having to come all the way down there first. And then trying to get up there. On that side there you would have the town wall up on that side, so if you were coming down here you'd be trapped, you'd be attacked from that side. Although the most sensible thing if you were under siege would be for everybody to come and jump in the castle, abandon the town. The castle would be much more easily defended than a town would, especially against a large army. That would have been the gateway into the town. Well, I don't know if there's a separate gateway or whether it was just open from the castle once you've gone through the castle. But down here you've got the castle walls up there, and then you've got the town wall up there. I think this section here is actually part of the old town wall rather than the castle, because it is actually outside the castle. There are some small bits. Hello, buzzing bee. Yeah, so that there is part of the town wall which goes that way, because as you can see there's the castle there. Not sure how far it goes on, but you can see the bank and ditch over there. Oh, under a tree and into some stinging nettles. People do ask me often, what's your favourite castle? I can't really say I have a favourite castle, but this is one of the castles that I visited more often than not. I've never actually come down this way or through the town. I'm going to go and have a look at that now. And this is at the very, very southern end of the little town of Castle Acre. This is where the southern gateway would have been, although there's nothing left. There's only the bank there that you can see, a very, very high bank. The gate would have been just here. We walk up that street, it's called Bailey Street for obvious reasons I think. And then you've got the castle over there with that remaining bit of wall. Very interesting place, Castle Acre, especially with the priory nearby as well. Before I left Castle Acre, I thought I'd just pop round and use the toilet. We're around by the priory, which are very now ultra-modern English heritage unisex toilets. And I thought I'd just pop round and have a look at the gatehouse. I mean, it'd keep the local hoi polloi out, but I mean, it wouldn't stop an army in a siege. But it is an impressive structure. Got gate tower, gatehouses on it. The priory itself is just over there. The castle's over in that direction. As you can see, it's a very nice structure.